Okay, let's do this. I've got this for one more day, so let's do a quick video review before I return it. This is the Sigma Art 50mm 1.4 lens in the Sony E-mount. Now, I've been in the market for a new lens to shoot automotive detail shots, and I think this is the lens that fits the bill. Full disclaimer, it was actually you guys on Instagram that helped me pick this lens. I was tossing up between the 35mm 1.4 and the 50mm 1.4. The 35mm 1.4 is actually what won the votes, but the 50mm is what I tried out, and this is the lens that I want to talk about today. Now, after using this lens for the last couple of weeks, I've been so impressed with it that I thought I'd do a quick video to talk about how it's relevant for me in my work, as well as how it might be relevant for you in your work as well. So here's 5 reasons why you should buy the Sigma Art 50mm 1.4 lens. So number 1, unless you're in a really niche area of photography and you don't shoot anything else, 50mm seems to be about that sweet spot for a prime lens. If you're only going to get one prime lens, I think 50mm is the one to get. It's incredibly versatile in any situation, and I will be first to admit that I'm not a prime lens guy. I only shoot prime lenses on commercial shoots where I'm shooting medium format, in which case I have no choice. I have to shoot primes with those cameras. But any camera that's more editorial, PR, or something that's more for myself, when it's given my choice, I'm always going to use the same lens, the Canon EF 24-70 2.8 lens, which is like a zoom lens and a prime in one. So a lens like this has to really, really impress me for me to be willing to pry that legendary zoom lens off and for me to put something else in there. And this Sigma lens most certainly does that. Number 2, it represents pretty good value for money. It's under $1,000 US, which for a really high-end prime lens to be used in professional settings, I feel like this represents very good value for money, even by 2020 standards, and this is an old lens now. Quick side note, I actually found that it's on sale on Amazon at the moment, so I might buy it off there. If you want to support me, I might put a little affiliate link in the description below. Number 3, now I reckon the 1.4 represents a sweet spot here. I know that Canon and Nikon both have their 1.4 lens offerings, and they are actually cheaper. But those are 1.4 lenses that are being loud and shouty as a 1.4 as a selling point. This Sigma lens is a Sigma Art lens first and foremost, and everything that a Sigma Art lens represents. It just happens to be a 1.4 as well. It's not so huge and massive that I don't really want to lug it around either. Having fast aperture is not my priority. Having usable workhorse professional image quality is actually my priority. Now, I've even used as far as the 50mm 1.0 legendary camera lens, and I can tell you that 1.0, yes, it sounds like it's better, but wide open, that lens is so soft. This Sigma 1.4 is ridiculously sharp wide open. And sure, the 1.2 is going to be nice to have, but I consider the 1.4 to be that sweet spot. There is a big difference between going from a 2.8 to a 1.8 to a 1.4, but the difference from 1.4 to 1.2, I really just don't feel that much of a practical difference between them, especially when it comes to light, bokeh, and depth of field. Now, the way I see it, the 50mm 1.0 is a bit of a novelty item. It's unusably soft, fully wide open, and it's not really practical in the real world. The 1.2, on the other hand, you are paying a lot more for it, and you are getting a piece of art for that price. The 1.4, on the other hand, that's your value for money workhorse. Have I said enough how sharp this thing is? Even wide open, it performs fantastic when it comes to sharpness, corner sharpness, chromatic aberrations, and distortion. Number 4, the bokeh on this thing is outstandingly gorgeous. It's just mwah. I love it. I absolutely love the bokeh on this thing. Unfortunately, on YouTube, you often see when they're testing the bokeh on these lenses, they just shoot with some street lights in the background, observing the bokeh there, or they shoot some girl with some trees in the background. I judge bokeh based on how it moves from foreground to middle ground to background. And it's also helped by the fact that this has a minimum focusing distance of about 40 centimeters, which is about 15.7 inches. And being able to get closer to your subject means your depth of field is even narrower. And finally, my fifth reason to buy this lens is that it's available in most of the major 35mm mounts. You can buy it as a Canon EF mount, you can buy it as a Nikon F mount, and you can buy it natively like this in the Sony E mount. You can tell this one is Sony E mount because it's got this ugly little flange distance added to it. Personally, when I order this lens, I'm probably going to get it in the Canon EF mount, so that way I can continue to adapt it in my Sony A7R, but still be able to use it on my Canon 5DSR as a backup body. I know autofocus performance is affected, but like I said in my other videos, that doesn't really affect my line of work so much. And don't forget, from my experience so far, EF mount lenses seem to hold better resale value. I assume that's because Canon EF mount can be adapted on more cameras. So overall, I think the Sigma Art 50mm 1.4 lens is quite literally a must buy. It's not a lens that I think you'll keep in your cabinetry gathering dust over a long period of time. I imagine this is the kind of lens that you'll be using virtually on every shoot, partly because of that really versatile 50mm focal length. Unless you want to fork out the extra cash for a 1.2 lens, or you already have one, in which case you might as well use that. But for me, I'm just looking for a workhorse for me to shoot for automotive detail shots, and this fits the picture perfectly. On top of automotive detail shots, I think I'm also going to try and use this for some portraits as well. So that's just my opinion on this really sweet lens. Hopefully you found it useful or controversial, but this lens has been selling for such a long time already, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if Sigma continues to sell this for many years to come. So chances are you're watching this from the future, so hello to you watching this from the future. Thanks for watching my video.